But version 3, version 5, 4 came in 96, version 5, version 6. We are working with one customer who's on 6.5, right, Paul? So anybody on 6, right? 6.5 released in 2004. So yeah, the point here is, this list keeps on going up, XIR2, but just keep an eye on, every major release, be it XIR2, it releases a support pack, and each support pack releases a patch, basically. So what is it? Basically, it is a major version of BO, so 4 or 4.1 or 4.2. Then they'll have service pack that has features in it, new improved features. And then if there are bugs and issues in those features, they'll release patches to fix those. So in order to upkeep and keep and have a very good running system, which is free of bugs or free of issues, you need to make sure that you are on the latest and greatest patch for whatever version that meets your need, basically. There's no need to be on the latest and greatest just because, that's what is out there. You need to make sure you understand what features are available, what my organization will work with, is it worth going to this that soon, because you may want something, but your IT department cannot support it. Sometimes that happens, right? So, oh yeah, this is a good one. 4.0 Service Pack 2, 21 patches. Woo. So yeah, and the list goes on, and then the author apologizes, like, hey, I'll add 4.2 later. This is too much. Anyways, so at one point, he gave up writing dates. I guess that was too much work to go back and find each and every document with release dates. But hopefully that gives you the idea of why, understanding about upgrades is important. Even though if you're not an administrator, it's okay. As long as you keep an eye out there, you understand what is available. That way, you as a user can go and say, I need this feature. Okay, where is it? It's in this service pack or whatever. So upgrade is important. By show of hands, anyone on XIR2? 3, the new one, not the 94 one. 4.0, 4.1, 4.2. Everyone's on 4.2. That's good. All right, so we don't have to worry too much about few things. Because I didn't know how many people would still be on the older version. So I have few contents in this presentation that will help those guys out. But since we're all on 4.2, I can skip few. 4? 4.0? Okay, as long as you're on 4, you're good.
We're moving. We're getting there.
Okay.
By July. It's very helpful for us.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Not like Paul said, right? 30.
No, it's not the 30.
Okay. All right, so what types of upgrades do we have to do? Well, the simplest one is an in-place update. Basically, you have your application installed on one machine, and you just apply the upgrade to go on to the new version. Another type of upgrade is where your IT or the next version of BO does not support your current platform, which is your Windows server. Maybe you're on the older one, 2008. The new 4.2 doesn't support that, which means, you will have to install BO on a brand new server and move contents to it, right? So that's the new install and migration of contents. So 2 types, mostly once you get on the major platform or the latest Windows server or Linux server, you mostly do few in-place updates. And those are pretty simple, but we still need to check few things because every once in a while, they do major code revision that may break your calculations in your reports, right? So certain formulas do not perform the way they're supposed to. So in order for us to make sure that we check them, we have to cover all the angles, look at few different things. So we'll look at that too later. But this is the generic idea of why we need to upkeep with different versions of BusinessObjects and whatnot. The fun part begins with the first step, which is to find the right files to apply the upgrade. SAP can be very confusing with that. Here's just an example of a screenshot, because with each version, they change things. This is just an example of 4.2 Service Pack 6 Windows Server. The file is divided into two parts, basically two files. Total file size is about like 5 GB. When you go to SP7, it's only one file, right? And it's about 7.5 gigs. That's a lot, right? And the file sizes are increasing. So that's the very first step, is you need to know which files to grab. And like I said, it can get confusing. Let me go back to the previous screenshot. SAP divides these files into a few different groups, which is installation and upgrade, supports and patches. So you have to find the right one. I have seen a lot of people who assume they downloaded the right files. When they try to run it, that's when they realize, nope, it's not going to work. So go back and install it again. No harm in downloading more files if you're not sure. Or just let us know. All right, so what do we need to know about the upgrade that you're going to perform? Well, you have to question yourself and try to understand what is in the new service pack. What do I need to install, or is there any additional requirements for a new feature? For example, if you want to use comments, by default comments are added in your auditing database. But if you wanted to separate it out and have its own database, you can do that. So it's a new feature. It gives you a few options. So this is just one of those that I know on top of my head, but every release they keep releasing new features and functions. So you need to know and understand what happens to those. If I want to use it, what do I need to be ready with? Upgrade is also an opportunity to clean house, especially when you're doing a brand new install and migrating contents. How many people actually take time and clean up house? Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, majority of them, no. So that is the ratio. About 60% do not. They just take whatever they have, move it to the new house, right? They don't box it, organize it, or anything like that. So we just take everything, put it again in the new one. Why is cleanup important? Just from applications perspective, if you have too many files and objects, that's too many metadata behind the scene for the system to process. Even though you're not using it, the system has to go through those. So your performance can degrade over the period of time if you do not do house cleaning, right? So keep that in mind. Use upgrades as an opportunity to do house cleaning. And once you get into a cycle and come up with your own run books for doing your upgrades, then things are easy. Because once you learn your lessons, you want to just apply that and keep on doing it again and again and again. And then it's easy. That way okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. That's it, we're ready. So let's just do it. No one's on the older version, so I'll skip this slide. No one's on the older version, so I'll skip this slide too, because if you were on the older version, things would have changed for you. If you're on the newer version, a lot of new things have been added, so you have to know each and every features that get introduced, basically. All right, how many of you actually know your disaster recovery strategy? Which means if your BO gets knocked out today, what do you do? Anyone? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Yeah, so this is a question that you need to ask whenever you're doing an upgrade, just because you need to have a rollback strategy. If I apply a patch, things go bad, what do I do? Right? If it's a virtual machine or VMs, you can take snapshots, which means I have to reach out to a database person so that they can take backups of the database. I have to reach out to the server team or the network team so that they can take snapshots of the VM. So these are the things that we have to understand. If it's not documented, might as well do it, because it's going to help you mostly rather than them, right? It's certain things like is there a need for custom login? Am I going to revise my security in the new version? Am I going to use BI Mobile? Am I going to introduce help desk to help me with automation of user account creation or something like that? Any new things that you foresee that will happen in the new version of the upgrade or on the new platform, you need to know. These are the things that will be part of your checklist so that you can cover those and work with the right teams. And the important thing is who's going to work on which tasks. How many of us do it all? I know it. Yes, there are many hands. Do it all. Install, upgrade, testing, coordinate everything. Just do it all and then hand it over. Okay, it's ready. Use it. So there are quite a few of us in here. So this will be, kind of like a refresher maybe for you. Right. Project management is important, especially when it comes to bigger environments and bigger organizations. We have to take certain aspects of upgrades seriously, especially when you're doing a brand new install and migration of contents. For a very big organization or even for regular organizations, you need to divide tasks accordingly, unless you're one-man show, like 5 of you who raised your hands. For you also, project management is important because someone's going to be behind you and ask you, where is this at right now? Where are you with this right now? What's going on? Apart from doing upgrade, that's not your 100% job. I know you will be doing your regular job, right? So it's hard to find time. So it's good to come up with a template like this where you specify what are you going to do. It's step 1, clean house. Step 2, build, which is install. If you're going to do a POC for a brand new server, you can, or you can just install and set up dev environment and then migrate contents and then tests. Just put in some dates. So this presentation will be available for you. Very easy. You can see like this right here, just a 1 quarter benchmark for an upgrade where you have to do everything, brand new install and migration. So parallelly, you can see quite a few things are happening parallelly. And if you have more resources, your timeline can be less or more. You can do task distributions and stuff like that. So try to leverage project management using basic Excel spreadsheets. I'm not talking about Power, Microsoft Project or introducing a project manager. You can, if your project is big enough and if you have resources and means in your organization. If not, if you're a one-man army, this will help you keep track of everything. All right. Installation of the software. Now, there are quite a few things that can affect, applying a brand new software is normally easy. You just click next, 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 select the options that you need, and let it do its thing. Sounds easy in theory, but in practicality, things can go wrong depending on how the environment is. So these are some of the things based on our experience over the period of years we have listed in this slide. One thing we have found which is very hard in certain organizations is even though the server is completely offline or not available to users, they're not able to disable antivirus or firewall. What happens is sometimes that can affect the deployment of the files while you're installing the software. We have seen certain organizations where the install has run for 2 days and still kept on running. And then we realized, okay, because if you have antivirus enabled, certain antivirus will scan each and every file of that 7 GB, which is compressed, right? So total install of BO will be about 18 gigs, depending on what language packs you put in. So there are many files. So these are the simple things that you need to keep in mind when you're installing the software. Name file support.
Just before you continue then, obviously it's on my mind because of a recent customer situation. But if you disable the antivirus and firewall, are you at risk at that point? Or
We'll have to see how the networking is set up. If it's an isolated, VM on a specific subnet that already has a firewall applied around it, you don't need to worry too much about it unless you're opening a firewall that is exposed to external elements. So we'll have to see mostly how that can be done. But it can be done. But if that is how secure the organization is, then they can, replicate the servers, give it to you in a separate location, and there you can do your testing, basically. Because you will have to do it. If it's affecting you, and you know it's affecting you, you will have to find a workaround to go around it, basically. File name support. This has happened in a lot of organizations. The thing is, whenever your network team gives you administrator privilege, doesn't mean anything. Because on the highest level, the group policies that they create to make you an admin on that machine, that's where a lot of rights are basically set up. So keep that in mind. Even though you have administrator rights, if you see issues that you shouldn't be seeing as running the application as an admin, talk to your network person and try to sort it out. Because most of the times we have seen that. Sometimes we have seen sometimes when we go to client sites, we get admin accounts, but we cannot run command prompts. Basically, we cannot put any commands or anything like that. So just makes you feel happy that you're an administrator, but technically a lot of rights are taken away from you. So keep that in mind as well. Here's a checklist of pre-installation on the server aspect. Basically, file name support is a good one because, as you know, the files in BusinessObjects are very deeply nested. So if your OS or if your group policy restricts you for certain character amounts to be created, you have C drive, program files, BusinessObjects, BusinessObjects 4.0, then it just goes in and in and in. So the number of characters that you see up on your Explorer keeps on increasing. Sometimes it's restricted to 280 characters. You want that restriction off, otherwise that's going to affect your deployment. So these simple, small things that no one tells you about, which you learn painfully, is what I'm sharing with you, so that it makes your life easy. How many of you have access to SAP support site? So majority of you, which is good because I am sharing quite a few KBAs in this slide, which will be helpful for you because they give you the entire process of how to take backups, basically, download the correct setup, and a master KBA on how to apply the install. I did not call you Siri. No, I'm sure. Right. The Holy Bible that we all refer to when it comes to business objects is the product availability matrix.